Welcome to episode 2 of the conversation I'm having with Aaron and Sarah about Nerd Reich, the dialogue, the connections they have with Indiana, and the attempted tech bro takeover that is occurring not only in our country, but globally. So thanks for joining us. We appreciate your support. Please drop us a like, a comment, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell so you know when we put out new content. And I appreciate your support. We all do here at Make It Make Sense, because that's all we are trying to do is take the information that we gather, have a discussion about it, and make it make sense for all of us. So enjoy episode 2 of our conversation about tech bro takeovers.
People need to stop and think, like, rich people don't just throw away their money like this. They wouldn't invest this much money. I mean, Bobai has what, over $2 million
Aaron, I beat this
for
drum
nothing.
so frequent.
So,
Just
but
girl.
the Nerd Reich, if you read Gilderand's reporting or listen to it, he makes it very clear that this is the strategy that they use. So I want to break down this story, this Greek mythology for people, in case they didn't take high school Latin like I did and learn, about Roman and Greek mythology. So we think about Troy, the Trojan War, where the Trojans were fighting the Greeks, much like the oligarchs have been fighting the working class, right? And the Greeks come in, they build this huge wooden statue, this wooden horse statue. They give it as a peace offering, and they say, we're gonna leave this here, guys, and then we're gonna go. We're done. No more fighting. And the Trojans are like, this is awesome. Yeah, let's take this beautiful statue in.
Let's bring it into our beautiful city.
Yeah, and
No problems there.
depending on the author, the literature that you're reading, there are at least two different people who, identify that this is a problem, there's something wrong going on here, or they actually warn people, like, there's something not right about this statue. Well, then what happens is after they've gotten the statue into the gates, everybody goes to bed, and all these Greek soldiers bust out and start killing people. And so I think people should be alarmed that Bobai came with this funding, and instead people are kissing his feet and rejoicing because they think that they've won.
And this is why I call progressives the Cassandras of Indiana, because absolutely, we're here telling you, hey, so Bo's a Trojan horse for all of his creepy MAGA billionaire Epstein class. Forget about the fact that Mark Rowan, his donor, is actually in the Epstein files. People seem to misunderstand that when I call attention to the Epstein class, I'm not talking about the fact that maybe Mark Rowan did or didn't do something on Epstein's island. Don't
Right.
know. I don't have anything to that. But the Epstein class seems to think that they are a group of wealthy individuals who get to throw their weight and their money around, and they get to bend the rules of society, and they get to destroy nation states. They get to control governments. They get to do whatever they want because the world is their playground, because they've earned that because they've just amassed so much wealth. I mean, Elon Musk is a trillionaire. He thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread because he's earned that somehow in his brain. He's earned that. So they do. They treat the world like the sandbox. And Bo is a Trojan horse for the Epstein class who is going to come in as soon as he gets through the gates. And we are constantly, as progressives, told, no, that's crazy. You're crazy. Bo is the savior of Indiana. The great man of history theory, like it really... I was a poli-sci major, but I took foreign language and history classes instead of getting my way of getting out of math. I don't do math very well. I'm Barbie. Math is hard. So I stuck more to history. So for me, like my like little historian in me is just like, this great man of history theory. You think Bo Bai is your savior, your white knight in shining armor who's going to come in and slay the dragon and save the princess?
Right.
Like, you're insane. That is not ever how history has ever been. It is constantly people getting together and pushing this boulder up the hill, this Sisyphusian task. And now I'm going to a different myth. But yes,
But it's
the
all
the
there.
point
We already know these stories. We should
yes,
know
but
better.
progressives immediately get told, "No, you're wrong," and move along, even though we are proven time and time again to be correct, and we will be if Bo actually makes it in November, which I honestly don't think that he will. I think that Max will win. I don't necessarily know that that's the outcome I want per se, but I think that again, offering Republican light and offering Republican in a state that typically votes Republican has been gerrymandered to vote this way. I just think is a losing battle. I don't think
Well,
that
Republican light
Republicans
and
won't.
MAGA Republican.
Yes,
That
okay, that's fair.
that's what you
But
got. Yeah.
the problem is that a MAGA Republican, like my dad, will not vote for Bo Bai because that's not gonna align with him, Max does.
Mm.
But
Right.
a never Trumper Republican is not gonna vote for Bo Bai. Very few of them pull the Democratic ticket. Just because I'm
Yeah.
not gonna vote for my party doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden gonna vote for the other
Gonna
person
vote
just because
for
they're not
that.
that guy.
And
Just like
Right.
I didn't vote for Kamala Harris because of the genocide in Gaza, but I didn't vote for Trump because I'm not a Republican. He didn't
Mhm.
align with me, and I'm not going to vote for him just because I don't like Kamala Harris. That doesn't make sense. That's a
I
binary.
I would say not MAGA Republican versus Republican light. I would say MAGA Republican versus tech fascist Republican.
I
Mhm.
like that. I
That's
like
a
Yeah.
it,
good
Aaron.
analogy. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think
Because
this is where the
I didn't want
established
to
party
say that
missed
because I
this
just
whole
like
thing.
hearing the establishment in my head, the Dana Blacks and
Yeah.
the like, just going, that's a very aggressive take.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
but you
wouldn't
look at
agree.
his
Yeah.
donor list and how could you not come to that conclusion? Like
Well,
one and
I
one
think
makes two.
I think a lot of us looked at the Secretary of State race between Blythe and Bo as a Blythe was a chance where we could steal that position. We could get enough people behind her, and they wouldn't pay attention to her because she's just a woman who is a therapist or a whatever. Where we knew that if Bo got in, they would destroy him, and that there would be, a chance in hell that he's going to win. I still don't think it is. But I want to go back to something you said uh, when you were talking earlier about the Epstein class, when we were first talking about the Nerd Reich and what have you, and you brought up the name Maxwell. Okay,
Mhm.
so that is a way that people would, because when you say Epstein class, people are like, "Well, there's nobody in Epstein." No, this is the whole class of these people. Just because they didn't necessarily travel to the island or are part of the Epstein files, they're part of the Epstein class, and I think people miss that when that narrative is used, they're part of the Epstein class. I don't think people understand what we're talking about. And you were talking about something with Elon's family and Ghislaine Maxwell's father being involved. Well, hell, right there. That's how you that's how we get uh, that information out to where people can understand what we mean when we say the Epstein class. So I just wanted to say that. So go ahead, Aaron. I
And
know you're.
wealthy people are very lonely. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not just a matter. I mean, it's definitely a matter of, these are their professional contacts, this is their network, but also it becomes very isolating, just like being famous is very isolating. They have to be in together, they have to rely on each other. And I think the billionaires that you see that seem more relatable are usually the ones who've maintained their contacts with old friends who don't have money. I at least hear that in, little personal stories from, people like Mark Cuban. He seems to have some empathy. I don't know how good he
Mhm.
is, but he has some
Right,
empathy.
right.
But again, another theme that's running all the way through, the Nerd Reich through Bobai's campaign is the deregulation. And I
Mhm,
know, I mean, this office, they would not talk about it in the campaign that he has power over regulating corporations.
mhm.
And his father got wealthy deregulating things for
Railing.
corporations, right?
Right,
This
and
isn't a
from
huge
yeah.
leap. This isn't 6 degrees of separation.
No,
And they said, well, I'm not going to hold him responsible for what
yeah,
his father did. He's been
exactly.
holding, right? He's been tying himself on the campaign trail. This is in my
To his
blood. These examples were
We're
modeled
6th
for
generation
me.
Hoosiers, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
which
didn't you
line of
also
And
mention
Sierra, I just wanna say another thing before you go on. Sierra the other day told me that billionaires are bored.
yes.
And so
Yeah, because he
it's
was
just
so yes. So the Epstein class,
so
the
I just feel like I'm in the middle of a sandwich cookie here, with the 2 outers that are telling me putting the same pressure on me, they just look differently because it's just mind-boggling to me to sit here as much as I have with Sierra, and now, this is the 2nd or 3rd time I've talked with you, and it's just like, "Wow, you guys are scary." But I love it too, because it's just crazy how your minds both kind of work together in the same kind of thing. I think, Aaron, you are more about trying to find solutions where we are more about uh, pointing out the problems and things like that. And I think by coming together and having all of that discussion, that's where it can be something powerful that we put together. And then I'm just here listening and throwing in my 2 cents bullshit work. But anyway, so
I think there are 2 important things to know about me. I hope everybody knows this as they, listen to me online or read my posts online. I was at the top of the Trump coup, just beside myself, having nightmares with my eyes open about what was happening and learning about the Nerd Reich. So I've been studying this for well over a year and a half now. So when I'm writing passionately about these topics, I want people to understand this is happening to my home already. This is the data center issue for me. Another thing is that I talk to people on a daily basis and watch their minds change. That is my job. And I see how people respond when they're being influenced by fear versus how they respond when they're influenced by their own power and feeling empowered. And I know that we can work with people to help them find a way out of this. I know that these oligarchs don't understand empathy, they don't understand connection, and they underestimate us. We can't afford to underestimate ourselves. But I think these fights are really worth having. I think the conflict is important, and I think we need to ride this out.
I think that it's important that you said that this is the epicenter because I think people sleep on Indiana and don't recognize that while yes, the majority of our state is a rural state, and yes, we are known for corn and soybean, that's really not what we do that much anymore. That's really
mm-mm,
not our main shtick.
mm-mm.
But it is a powerful narrative that covers things up, especially for Hoosiers who still ride with that narrative and say, well, Indiana's 63% rural. We're mostly farmlands. It's just farmers out here. We're just a bunch of farmers. It's really not true. We're not a bunch of farmers. Most of us aren't farmers. In fact, most family farms have been bought up and are now corporate owned farms, even if they allow the original tenants of that farm to still tend to the farm. Most of the farmers here in my county are not able to be their own farm. They're corporate owned now, corporate backed. Um, but that really goes to cover up and conceal what we are actually becoming, which is a tech boom. We are having a tech boom here. We are becoming the tech crossroads of America, is what they're trying to sell us. My dad is in the IT world. He was a software engineer, a salesman, he a lot of different pieces. And some of his biggest customers are actually Cummins and Eli Lilly. So we are more of a tech industry than and a tech hub that I think that people really understand, and a defense contractors hub that I think people understand. Because we have companies like Eli Lilly, Cummins, Ball, Raytheon, Honeywell, Lockheed Martin here. Like the list goes on, and they're in West Lafayette, they're in Carmel, they're in Fishers, they're in Indianapolis. They're literally just innocuous buildings sitting here with all kinds of public private dollars being poured into them. And I think people just don't really notice what the inner workings of this state really are. Um, and I think a lot of that
Mm-mm.
just gets covered up by people thinking we're just corn and soybean here. So I
Well, and
appreciate
Aaron,
you constantly beating the drum that
yeah,
that's not all we do here,
exactly, and and
especially in
and
Purdue, because that's what people think is agriculture. That's all Purdue is, right? That's all West Lafayette is anymore.
well,
That's what they think.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the biggest engineering schools in the country, but anyway,
I mean, yeah, they
um,
say that, but they think for agro engineering. I
right,
very rarely hear people
right.
talking
I don't,
about
yeah,
anything else. But yeah, sorry.
aerospace or anything, yeah,
Right.
military or whatever. But when I was saying at the very beginning about trying to tie this all together and how it's just like this, and I don't even remember what you asked me, because I'm 62 and my mind is short. But I'll give you an example of how it blew me away and how it just kind of it's like overwhelming. Um, when you shared your piece on the Nerd Reich and Mitch Daniels was there, and I started reading into it and thinking, "Oh, wow." And I don't even know how many people in the state of Indiana know Mitch Daniels had anything to do with Purdue University, okay, at one time or another. But then when the Wired piece came out about dialogue and you start going through the names and who's in there, Mitch Daniels. And then it's like, that's what I was referring to. It's like, oh my God, where where does the end game on this thing stop? And it's like it's just it you know, I don't know. It's sometimes hard to just fathom that this is the reality of what the hell we're witnessing.
And I
And
want
that how far down do we need to go before we find, the truth to all of it. But anyway, that's
I just want to point out one more thing. I hope people know as they're reading my pieces, I'm only writing about stuff that I can prove. I've heard so much more from my own
oh yeah,
community, right? Mitch Daniels interacting with Peter Thiel was not an accident. I will say that
yeah,
much.
Those
yeah,
rumblings that you hear, those breadcrumbs are so valuable. I'm sure you already know this in research. Those breadcrumbs that you hear, though, those are so valuable, just like typing in some keywords, because that is truly some arrogant asshole telling everybody on Facebook that he worked with the IDF personally with the National Guard at Muscatatuck is actually how I came to start doing that research and started asking people that I knew in the National Guard, do you know this to be true? And they, no, absolutely not. You're crazy.
yeah, and
Let that go. And I started doing more research and found absolutely that's true. You can see,
right.
firsthand accounts from the military, and then Indiana National Guard's website themselves.
And I respect all of that because, I appreciate the fact that and this is where Tabitha and Sierra and I, when we first got together, it was kind of a strange thing because I come from the content creator world, okay? I have a big following on Instagram, and my one Facebook page is huge. Um, I'm one of those that likes to throw out the breadcrumbs. I don't like to lie, and I avoid that at all possible, but I like to throw out things that say, "Hey," and so people can do their own research. Where Sierra and Tabitha, and I'm sure you're the same, you have to have a reference point to everything that you provide, and I'm becoming that way with the articles I write. I definitely am. But I think it's a combination of all of those things that we need to put together, and we just need to be careful at what we put out there. But
Mhm.
Tabitha, for instance, when she would write a Substack article, her references were longer than her article. So and so
If I were to
we
list that thing out, it would be. It's like 30 different
yeah,
links that I've used for
yeah,
And
an
if you
article.
link in your post, the algorithm throttles it. Like it doesn't
right.
as people don't
Right,
see it.
right, and I bet you're the same way that Sierra is, and I'm becoming this way too, and we've talked about this before too. When Sierra sits down at her computer, by the end of the day, there's 25 or 30 tabs at the top of her screen, and I never was that way. I would read an article and I'd move on. Now I'm finding myself to do the same thing,
There's
and I know
12
that
now.
you're the same way, Aaron, is that
Mhm.
once you start reading, and then you see, okay, what this and there if there is a link in the article, you click on it, and then you go down this, and that's how you go down these Mascatuck, Muscatatuck, deep dives because it's like, and then you're like,
It's all
wow.
there. Like, we have to have people connect the dots for us if they don't wanna do these rabbit holes, but then when we connect the dots for them, they think we're conspiracy theorists.
But
So
she
it's a
has
hard
like some
balance.
weird ways of finding information out by like using
Yeah.
realtor sites and some I mean, so weird. It's like,
I
how
have
did
all
you find
kinds
that
of
inf
tricks.
Yeah, so that she's learned over the time that she needs to find something out, which I
There are
think's great
definitely
because
ways
we
to be able to properly search people
yeah,
based on their names and if you know what state they live in and county. It's all it is. It's out there in the public. It's
yeah,
public
but
information
but
that's
it
been
but it is
intelligent.
so bizarre that we have to reference stuff because people would say, "Oh, yeah, what the hell are you talking about?" Well, it's true. Just like the G7 conference that just went on. I you shared that article in our little group text chat, and I went into it and I started going, and it was like it's so overwhelming. I mean, there were as many AI dudes sitting at that table than there were G7 leaders because almost every single one of them had a couple. Trump had 2 dudes sitting there with him, and that's the only ones we know about. I mean,
There was
it's just
a meeting, a working lunch meeting with heads of AI labs from France, Japan, UK, Italy, and Germany, and they told Axios that we AI needs to be working with Western powers in order to continue to dominate AI, and partnering with Western democracies is our number one priority. To me, that read like China scare. We're just doing the China race with China's AI and trying to do a version of the Red Scare, a version of, well, we have to beat China. They're our biggest adversary. They're the biggest adversary in AI, and so what we need to do is get these Western AI companies and Western democracies working together in tandem to take down communists and communist AIs. And I think that I just, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just like oversimplifying it, but just I see the brain dead logic of the Cold War playing out just in technology. And instead of the USSR as our adversary this time, it just feels like it's China. And so
I
well,
also
isn't that
think
what the Nerd Reich is all about? Just do whatever we want to and forget about what the human what the people want. We're just gonna create this world where we're gonna go ahead and do whatever we want because we know what's best and we know what's good for the future, and we're the brains and everybody else is just stupid people, and so screw
that
them. We don't care if
philosopher
they die.
king
We don't care if they're
mentality,
sick.
yes.
We don't care if they eat. We don't care if they're starving because we're the ones that are going to make the decisions. I mean, and
but I
that's what
also
all of this is about.
yeah, I think it's important though to think about our G7 leaders. And while they very may well be colluding or, trying to impose this new world order where they sit shoulder to shoulder with tech leaders, if you read the book Careless People that was written by a former Facebook employee, she talks about how Obama really embraced Mark Zuckerberg leading up to the 2016 election. And then once he saw what Zuckerberg allowed in terms of what was it, Cambridge Analytica
Yes.
Mhm.
coming in and trying to control, the algorithm or feeding people, all this misinformation
Yes. And data scraping and all the like. Yes.
to skew the election, um, he rejected him. And just like Musk getting rejected, how he, came back even meaner, I think Zuckerberg had the same thing going on. But we don't know if these world leaders are courting them, giving them a seat at the table to, keep your enemies closer. I don't know. That kind of remains to be seen for me. So
Mhm.
scary, yes, but also I wonder about the chess going on
I
behind
think
the
it's so
scenes.
interesting that you mentioned Obama just because I was listening to the Jon Stewart podcast about Muskism. And I know, again, I'm going to plug it just again because I think it's such an interesting discussion that they were having. But Quinn Saban, am I getting that right? I don't know. I feel like yeah, anyway, um, was talking to John about Donald Rumsfeld in 2001 coming up, or it actually came up in the early 90s, but Donald Rumsfeld starts actually talking about bringing this concept to fruition in 2001, right before the planes hit the towers. I think it's actually September 10th, literally a day before the planes hit the towers. Um, about having a network centric warfare that will be fought on with drones and bombs and things on drones instead of having actual boots on the ground. And
Mhm.
Musk, then obviously you would need infrastructure for that. You would need satellites. You would need the infrastructure to be able to build some kind of network centric warfare. Enter Elon Musk, who starts building satellites and building this infrastructure through Tesla and SpaceX, or just Tesla rather. SpaceX comes later. Tesla 2002 is when Musk starts building the infrastructure through satellites. So that starts kicking off. And then Obama gives Musk government contracts in 2009 to kick off this green energy revolution. So I think that it's interesting because early on, yes, Democrats and liberal elites aligned themselves with tech bros and with Silicon Valley because what was being presented to them was not an an alternative to government. What was being presented was an alternative to the climate crisis. We can bring in green climate energy and good tech that will help facilitate the next chapter of human existence that is not with fossil fuels, that is not dependent on the old ways that we've been doing things. And so, obviously, people like Al Gore is really into this idea. He ends up leaving and goes and works with a venture capital firm who kicks off some of this green revolution. Obama helps by giving government contracts and subsidies to these corporations. And like you said, by partnering with Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and a lot of these tech bros early on, because I don't think that they were, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to assume that they weren't game or privy to what was the larger plan that these tech bros had. But I think that it's interesting because clearly this has been something that has been this is a project that has been in the works for a very long time. Taking it again back to the technocracy movement of the 1930s, um, it seems like it is a global reaction, kind of, to the New Deal era. Like, we had obviously the era of the Depression, but then you had an era of progressivism, and I think that this is now the inevitable backlash of that era. Does that make sense, or do I sound like a lunatic?
No, but it all started with Project 2025 and it all started with the Heritage Foundation after
I
after the
think the
movement
Heritage
of
Foundation definitely is a huge part, but I think that this
Mhm.
precedes them.
Well, no, yeah, right.
I think that
But
they
I mean,
might
I
be
think the
useful, like,
reversal here
coalition bedfellows with the techno-fascists, but I think that
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it goes back further than the Heritage Foundation. I definitely think that it plays a part, but, like, for, like, people like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, their worldview is not, um, influenced by the Heritage Foundation. Their worldview is
right,
influenced by the Christian nationalism of Germany, the Christian nationalism of, like, the Third Reich.
yeah.
And Peter Thiel's town that he grew up in, they literally celebrated Hitler's birthday. They wore Nazi memorabilia. They were totally open with their love of Nazism. And so for Elon Musk to, hit the Hail Hitler, like, to him, that probably wasn't that weird. I mean, to his friends and fans, to us, it looks crazy because we don't celebrate Hitler's birthday. But when you grow up in a town where people are literally celebrating the
So,
birth of Hitler, um, and Nazism, I think that more informs their worldview.
mhm.
Yeah, white supremacy is what brings them all together.
Right. And I don't and I know you didn't, but I don't think we can discredit the role that the Heritage Foundation has had here in the United States and the, promotion and where we are today, because it was born because of the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement, and they said, "Enough of this crazy shit. This is democracy working, and we don't want that." So, I think it's, important,
So
you
then
know,
the techno fascists probably get along with the Heritage Foundation and build coalition
oh,
for exactly
I'm
what you said.
sure
They're
I'm
trying to
sure
both take it back to a time when it was less democratic. So,
I'm sure the more we
except where I
dig
think
into it, the
where they'll differ is that, at the end of the day, I think that, and maybe I'm wrong, correct me, because you've definitely done more research into the Heritage Project or Foundation than I have. Uh, Maybe where they're gonna differ is that the Heritage Foundation will stop at letting white property owners vote or white males vote, but I think that the techno-fascists are moving towards away from that completely. It's not that just a select group of people will be able to vote, it's that
Right.
you will not need to vote. There will not be a vote. You get no say. You will have your gray jumpsuit. You'll clock in at the place I told you to, and then that's the end of that.
They want the corporation to run the locality. So the
Yes.
CEO, if you want a CEO instead of a governor, or a mayor, that's what you're gonna have.
Like Detroit in the '30s, like, Henry Ford is running that whole town from the top to the bottom.
Mhm,
He owns
yeah,
the company store, he owns the homes that you're living in, everything. He makes the rules essentially. I mean, there was a government, but Right? I mean,
Well,
so
Again, they're
that
but
unoriginal bastards.
yeah,
exactly, they are. They're unoriginal as fuck, and they're not
yeah,
even offering
but I
livable
think
wages. Like, that was the crazy thing. At least Ford was offering, like, wages no one had ever seen before. My Arab grandparents, great-grandparents worked at the Ford plant in Detroit, and they
yeah,
had
but
wages like you never seen before.
I think if you ask Kevin Roberts though, truthfully, or had him, in a closed, situation to where he thought he could speak freely, and you asked him if he thought that he should have the same voting rights, or if he's fighting for voting rights of all white men. Does Billy Bob, who's on Social Security, and is living in poverty, do you feel like he should have the same say so in the voting system as what you do? And I would bet to think he would say no. That there is a separation not only of color and gender, but of class too, because I think that's what the Heritage Foundation is all about. Because so much of their policies that are in the Project 2025 are not only attacks against Democrats and liberals and wokeism and the LGBTQ plus community, but it's against poor people and marginalized people, and that's across the board. That's not defined by a political belief or even a religious belief. So I think I think it goes deeper than what and they're proud as a peacock. I mean, his interview on C-SPAN made me sick, and I did some content on it, but, just sitting there and said, you know, well, he's put in over 1,055 of the plans of our agenda, and it's just it's sickening. But anyway, so we got off topic a little bit, started talking about the Heritage Foundation, but
They're all
No, I
evil.
think it
I
no,
think
the
it
more
all
I
ties
hear
together.
no, because I think you're right, because the more I hear it, the more I'm remembering Project Esther is also part of, Project 2025, and that's the silencing of dissent, of
Mhm.
pro-Palestinian voices, and trying to, brainwash the American public into, being pro-Israel again.
Which Mark
Um,
Rowan was also involved with, by the way. Was it at
yes,
UPenn when he
yes,
tried to shut down the
absolutely.
protesters there and threaten donations
Yes,
there?
and
That is
flex the board muscles. Yes,
Bobi does not consider him an extremist, but considers
yes.
Jesse Brown an extremist?
Yes, the man
Right,
who wanted to
right.
literally quash dissent on college campuses.
Mhm.
Yes, because that was the most democratic thing taking place was a bunch of college students trying to say, "Hey, so our tuition dollars go to this. Our tuition dollars fund a genocide when we are funding things like Project Maven, and then born out of our universities with our public tax dollars comes something that ends up bombing a school of children in Manab." And Bobi is very proud of having worked on Project Maven. He puts it on his campaign website. It has been linked as the Palantir's project that bombed a school of little girls, killing over 100 of them in Manab, Iran. I do not know
Yep.
why, as a Democrat who is supposed to be the defender of human rights and of Western civilization and basic human decency is what is supposed to be the Democrats' core value is
Yeah, but
is
because he's
basic
not.
international human rights and law, and we are
But
seeing a degradation of that. And to have a Democrat come out and say that they are proud to have worked on Project Maven is just disgusting. And the fact, again, that nobody is even questioning it, no one is even saying anything about it. They are just looking at him like a shiny wooden horse statue, going, "But this is so beautiful and it will really contribute to
Fun.
our freaking town. It's great. What a peace
yeah, but
offering."
did you notice on those podcasts that I shared with you, and two of them, he talks about how he worked on a tech project when he was in the Marines. He doesn't mention what it is. So he's taken that word out of his mouth. Whether it's still on his website,
Take it off
yes.
his website. It's still
But
actively there.
On LinkedIn. Mhm.
he will
On
not
his
say
if you just go to bobuy.com and hit
com,
read
and it's
more,
on there. He
you will
worked on
literally
Project
get a
Maven.
blurb of
Yeah.
his bio that is literally just
Yeah.
like, and this
But
one
on
time I worked on this really
podcasts
awesome ass thing called
but
Project
on
Maven.
podcasts, he talks about working on a weapons technology program that was used, and this pissed me off, and these are the little things, that was used on the war in, Ukraine, which to me, uh most Democrats are, I know progressives. It's not a war in Ukraine. It's an illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia.
Mhm.
But, you know, these centrists like to refer to things like that as, you know, it's a war, So anyway, but
Well,
yeah.
and Ukraine has also worked with Palantir.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Uh,
and
did
that is
did Bo serve in an attorney's role, um, on that project?
no, he was a Marine.
No, I think he just
So,
worked on the
in
He
it
the
was
was when he
he
Marines,
was
was
he can still
he was in the
do
Marines working
right? The
on
policy?
on
Project Maven. No, in
Maven.
so at that point in time, so I looked into it because I thought it was strange, and I looked into the timelines because I would have theorized that he worked on this project at the time because they match up, but he advertised that he did. So
Mhm.
during the time that Palantir's Project Maven is in its infancy, it was given to the Marines to find implementation points into what they do. Bo Bai was pivotal in helping find practical implications for this technology through the Marine Corps. That's what he did. At the same time, his daddy, Evan Bai, is sitting on the
Mhm.
committee, the intelligence committee, overseeing this project. He gets to have a person on the inside, his little mini me, running around doing things, and we're just supposed to be told that these two are not in cahoots, that they are not working together.
And he wasn't
All for
fighting
the
Bo,
no
he was, like,
labels party.
consulting. He was analyzing and consulting because
Yes, he
my
was. Yes, because that's and this is something that I talked to Kurt and Tabitha really early on in the buy campaign that I theorized as well, is that they tout that he has this military service, but he is Birch Evan by the like fourth. He is not, he is the namesake. Somebody has got to carry on the political torch of this family, and it's not going to be
Mhm.
Nick. He's not the Birch namesake. So it's
Right.
got to be Bo. And when you have the heir and the spare in British royalty, they have to go serve in the Royal Navy or in armed services, in some form of the armed services. Legitimate. So when they do that, I think I just lost my headphone. That's fine. They put the spare as the one who's allowed to see frontline action. The heir is never allowed to see frontline action. So Prince Harry goes to the front lines. Prince William never does. I think that Bo was treated that way. That he was never allowed to be seen in combat because in a combat role he could lose his life, and then you would lose the political dynasty. But in a consulting role, in a computer software or analysis role, then he can just sit there and work on Project Maven trying to find practical implications for something that his daddy is working on in Congress.
And see, Aaron, early on, we also talked about this too, is that I'm one of 8 kids. I'm number 7, and my mom loved us all, but she saw different things in each one of us,
yeah, birth
okay?
order matters.
And okay, so my theory was on all of this too, is that at a very young age, these 2 twins, Evan saw something in Bo that he did not see in his brother. And now that I've watched more podcasts where he's involved in and hear him talking, Bo played basketball and football and lacrosse and actually went on a scholarship to Harvard. And he was upset because Notre Dame didn't give him a scholarship offer, but that's neither here nor there. But his brother never played football. His brother didn't really participate in basketball.
See, I thought
His
he was
Bo
the
brother
heir.
is a
I thought he was
his
the goat
brother
one
works
just
for
because
the
the
Indianapolis
heir.
Colts.
Right, but that's why they were talking about Anthony Richardson, who's the quarterback or was the quarterback for the Colts, and
Yeah.
how his brother was saying his delivery of his football is, his passes a little bit. And Bo said, I asked him, what do you know about that? You've never thrown a football. And I thought that to be really telling that he was saying those kind of things, that I was like, wow. Bo also mentioned in one of the podcasts, and I think it was the one with Andy Bashir, is that he doesn't look at himself in the legislative branch of government. He looks at himself in the executive branch of government, which I
Mhm.
think is also
He thinks like a predator.
exactly. It's a very telling some of the things, and Sarah's helped me out with this, and she even catches things, that I'm like, how did you know? How did you get that. Like, the beginning of the podcast the other day, she made a point out. Who taught Bo made it an issue to try to solidify his being a Hoosier, that I was born at St. Vincent's Hospital, and then I went to high school. Okay, this is Sarah. This is how her brain works, which I absolutely love, because who the fuck talks about where they're born? I've known you and I've been talking to you. You've never told me where you're born, but he didn't mention the high school where he went
No, he
or
starts the
where it was
podcast with
located.
2 minutes and 30 seconds into
2 minutes
Gary
and 30
Snyder's
seconds into it.
podcast. And he's just like, "So
She's already like,
I'm a
Yeah.
6th generation Hoosier. I was born in St. Vincent's Hospital and right over here
just a
in
few
Broad
blocks
Ripple,
away from where I'm
Indiana."
at now.
And then,
Yeah,
just right around the corner, actually. Isn't
right,
that he even calls it a full circle moment, which, by
right.
the way, means that you left and came back for it
But
to
he
come
didn't
back full
tell
circle.
he
So you
didn't
went
say
on a
where he went
journey,
to high
right?
school.
But right.
Yeah,
So he goes straight into from the time I was born, skips everything in between and goes, and that one time I played high school basketball. You guys are
yeah.
Hoosiers. Lemon shake up, fucking what else?
Tenderloin.
Hoosier basketball, racing,
Tenderloin, yeah. I
tenderloin
mean, it's like,
sandwiches.
my
I've got
God,
all the
really?
things, right?
Yeah,
Like that he just
yeah.
very much shifted quickly into I played high school basketball and then I went to
Mhm.
college, and he doesn't mention the high school because he doesn't want to mention he went to St. Albane's private preparatory school where the tuition for 1 year is $85,000. 1 year is
Marathon Oil paid for that,
$80,000. Yes,
right?
it did.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
Marathon
only way
Oil
you
paid for
make
that.
it to $1 million K through
Yeah.
12 education. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the only way.
and I don't wanna
Then move
trash his mom
then
because
move
his
straight
mom,
into
passed away.
his resentment for Notre Dame just really quickly. I think
Yeah,
the reason he mentions that is twofold. One, because he tried to come back to Indiana, but Indiana wouldn't take him. Like there isn't a great school and a great law school in two places IU has, the Maurer School of Law in Bloomington, but we also have McKinney School of Law up here, surrounded by Fortune 500 companies. You mean to tell me you couldn't have gone to the McKinney School of Law down here? It's a top school. But no, Harvard or Notre Dame didn't take me, so I had to settle for Harvard. No, you didn't. You didn't want to go to Notre Dame. You went to Harvard because you always wanted to go to Harvard. That's where your bros that you did keggers with went, and
King
you
right.
wanted to go
Joffrey
hang out
Exactly.
settling
with your
for
friends,
Harvard.
right? Like,
Exactly. That's where
stop
all your
fucking
East Coast
fronting us.
lacrosse buddies went. Yeah,
Right.
your
So
East
like
Coast
he
lacrosse
immediately
buddies.
name drops Notre Dame because he's like, "Well,
Yeah,
see, I hit all the points. I said St. Vincent's Hospital in Broad Ripple.
spittle.
I told you I played basketball. I said I
I
wanted to
like
go to Maine. God
tenderloins.
damn it, I'm a Hoosier."
Yes. Still got
Like,
some
I
tenderloin in
like
my teeth.
tenderloin. And
right.
like I said, I don't wanna trash his mom because, she died of cancer, and that's a horrible thing. I've been through that experience with many people in my family, okay? But he made this comment, which I thought was really crazy. She had 2 jobs in her life. One was being a wife, and one was being a mother. And I was like, "Well, no, actually, there was a time when your mom was raking in a hell of a lot more money than what your dad was. So, that's a goddamn lie,
No,
and
okay,
you're trying to."
but yes, you're right to point out a lie, but why? Why would you lie? Why would you put it that way? She was
Mhm.
two things, a wife and a mother. What
Right.
movement is taking hold in America right now amongst young people his age? The trad wife
The
movement.
tra Mhm.
So to tell people that his mom is two things, come on,
Oh, I
it's so
didn't even
just
notice that.
like, and
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
have a weird thing where when I want to
That's
when I
I
want to turn my brain off, I watch YouTube video essays of things that I find interesting, and the trad wife movement is something I find so interesting, and I am so fascinated by people like Phyllis Schlafly. So like, this is what I do in my free time when I'm trying to turn my brain off.
See, but
Um,
I thought when you said that example, I thought he was trying to cover up the fact that wasn't his mom on Anthem's board, like, around the same time,
Right,
Evan?
right.
yes,
Yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah,
twofold. It works
what
conveniently. Not only are we covering up that yes, his mom is absolutely a corporate mom who has done
right.
some evil shit with some
Well, and I
but
and I read
has
somewhere
Evan
that she was the
sabotaged the public
breadwinner.
yes,
health
She
care
was the one
option? Yeah.
yes,
she was the one
because
raking in the money for a while.
yes. Yeah, Because of course, I mean, he's an asshole who's spiteful. And just like in Bo's comment about, well, Notre Dame didn't want me. So cool. So you took your ball and you fucking left Indiana and said, fuck those Hoosier assholes anyway. I was never one of them. Yeah, I mean, just like Evan
Yeah.
Bayh did when he was mad about having lost the presidency or having lost Democrat support. He said, well, fuck you guys. I'm
I'll
going to
send
sell you
you.
down the
Yeah.
river. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
stab Bernie Sanders'
Plus,
bill in the back. And then I'm going to go take a job with Apollo Global Management,
Yeah.
make bank, and fuck you all. I'm going to
these
watch
are
it burn.
fragile men.
Yeah.
Fragile
Fragile,
men,
yes.
dead eyes,
Thin-skinned baby
decent
boys.
hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just
Thin-skinned
crazy.
baby boys. I mean,
It's
truly.
crazy.
But yeah,
Well,
it
look,
is. It's crazy and it's all connected, man.
when we first started talking about doing this, we were saying we need to be around 30 minutes or so. We've been it's an hour. It's an hour 33.
This
And
is a
so
series.
The
Aaron,
series,
yes.
thank you.
So you have stepped into our world full blown now, and you see how we can. I mean, I don't know about you, but it's just so the conversation just seems to flow. There's no stopping, there's no dead points. We feed off of each other. You know, that's what I have that's what I've grown to love about Sarah, and I'm sure I will about you, is just being able to sit and have a conversation and talk about things from, if you want to call us normal people, which I don't think we are normal. Sarah calls herself a normie all the time. And I'm like, look, you send me 18-minute audio text while you're in your closet folding laundry.
Okay,
So
listen.
That's a
I
mom
mean
for you.
normal. I don't mean normal like I'm a normie out here who
no, I
doesn't pay
know.
attention to politics. I just
I
mean
know.
like I think sometimes political junkies have a tendency to come together and hang out with each other
Right,
and
right,
like
right,
like they do in DC, and it becomes like this little
right.
echo chamber. And I think that
It
people
does.
just sit there and they talk about, and you can see it in the IDP and the pundits and the people who cover Indiana politics. They all content creators, they all get in this little
Mhm.
group together and they start
And
saying things and they
start
start
right,
sounding like one another, and they start it's an echo
right.
chamber. And I think they start to forget that they are not the smartest people in every fucking room that they enter,
So,
and that they would be good to remember to listen twice and speak once.
right.
Because
Ha-
most of the people out here that are actual normies, that are actually not, they're apolitical.
Yeah.
It's not that they're stupid. And I know that you say this all the time, Kurt, because you think that you're one of them. You're not stupid. You have common sense. You have two brain cells to rub together. And if things feel complicated, it's because assholes like me who have been classically trained are supposed to make it feel really complicated and complex so that you go, well, shit, I don't have a degree from a fancy
Well,
university. Guess I can't
yeah,
do anything. When no,
but
you
I've
are
never been
probably
afraid to
smarter than
ask.
most of them. They
I've never
just
been afraid to ask.
they just have an
Why?
ego about
Explain
them
it
because they're
to
hanging
about
around the
yeah.
same assholes going, oh my God, you're right. Incremental change is how we get things done. That's such a smart idea. What a smart idea. And they just hear that all day long, and how they have
Yeah,
such great ideas and they're so smart and no one else could understand because they don't pay attention and they aren't politically in tune. And you
Can I
don't have to be. You don't need to like read every article or watch hours of fucking news coverage to know that bombing school children in Manab is wrong, or to know
not
that your
good.
tax
Yeah.
dollars should not pay for the slaughter of Gazans.
the incremental change bit, is that a maneuver? It feels like we've been maneuvered on that because I've heard that and I thought that is the
That
most
is always what they do. That's always what Democrats do to progressives. Progressives come in and they say, look, what we need is big, bold ideas. We need to take a
stuff
real
that will win
swing at this.
elections.
Yes, what we say is
Yeah.
things like 15, and this was 10 years ago. I don't think this is a livable wage now, but like
Right.
things like $15 minimum wage.
$15.
That's something to get people excited. And when if they don't understand it, you explain it to them and how it will benefit them. You educate people. You tell them big ideas like universal health care. Well, how will we pay for it? You give them a 2% tax on the rich. That's how we'll pay on the ultra rich, is what Elizabeth Warren said. It was your 50 million in first dollar. You will get a 2-cent tax on your 50 million and first dollar. You can make 50 million free and clear, no taxes. But as soon as we're going to hit a wealth tax, 2 cents every dollar. And they said, absolutely fucking not. But
Right.
but the point being is that progressives ask for these really big swing for the fucking fences policies because that is what gets people out. Hope and change is what inspired Hoosiers to come out and vote for Obama in 2008. But that hope and change eventually gets gutted, turned into something that looks like the ACA, where you have just subsidies to corporations and not universal health care.
Because Citigroup sends Obama an
Right.
email and is like,
Right,
put all
but
these
they threw you a
people,
public
yeah,
option,
in
don't worry,
cabinet.
they'll shut you up, progressives, I threw you a public option, so if and it's poised as this, it's just makes sense. It just makes good sense that if you
Mhm.
like your healthcare, by your insurance, by your company, your employer's so nice, Ford, Andy Moore Ford is so nice to you, and you just love them so much in their insurance with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, you can keep that, or you can have a public option, but fuck that anyway. Get a subsidy. And so they take what these big progressive policies that would have been so transformative and they hollow it out and make it incremental and go, well, you'll never get that passed. You'll never get universal health care passed. So, what we actually need to do is incremental change. And we're going to start with the Affordable Health Care Act. We're going to start with Obamacare. And so now I'm interested to see what their incremental change will be. I think it's just expanding the ACA, but this again will fail. It's what I keep telling Kurt. We're going to win in 2026 because we're going to pretend to have progressive policies, but that will immediately
Well,
be abandoned at the first hurdle. They will
yeah,
ditch
Yeah.
that
they
altogether
won't.
and give us
Yeah,
incremental change.
If you find
That will
something
not fix
on
anything.
incremental change, I'd like to share that.
yeah.
Huh?
If you find something on that as a strategy, I'd like to share that.
I will definitely look, but it is just what I have
Yeah,
noticed.
I've
They will
heard it.
just
So, I mean,
they will just gut it and then they'll
take a
just
look at
move
what's
along.
happening right now in our state with an organization who is throwing out these endorsements already, which is kind of bizarre. That's like 5 or 6 months before the election, and we have socialist candidates and actual people that call themselves progressives that are accepting these endorsements and reposting them. That the first line says affordable health care at the very top, which is like to me, I uh, it's bizarre because
It's the
that's not
Affordable Care Act. That's what I think it is. It's
I
the
know, but it's
expansion of
like what
subsidies.
but they're googling and goggling
Yes.
over these endorsements that they're getting, and it's like it's a generic meme. They just replaced the face and the website, but it's all the same platform. Everybody has a check mark next to things that they're fighting for. I don't even remember what the rest of them are because I saw a socialist candidate, an actual individual who's trying to get on the ticket as a socialist, a democratic socialist, repost this endorsement and it says affordable health care. That's not that is not the platform of the Democratic Socialist.
No, it's
And
not.
so I sit back and I think, what in the hell is going on? It it's 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 such a vanilla way
It
of
is centrist Democrats
it's like they're
sticking their finger out in the
sabotaging this.
wind. Yes, they're sticking their finger out in the wind. They're seeing the way which way the wind blows. They did this in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. They saw the way the wind was blowing, and people liked Bernie Sanders. They liked his policies. They liked his worldview. That was
Mhm.
popular, and it was popular amongst young people. I was fresh out of high school when Bernie started hitting the scene. I was a Bernie bro, and I was like, I didn't even know I was into politics until I started hearing Bernie Sanders talk, and I'm just like, yeah, that makes good fucking sense. That just makes good sense. And so they saw the way the winds were blowing, and then they immediately had to come in and take that over. They had to co-opt that language and start to say, well, look, and you can see it right now happening in with Bo Bai as well, where they're going, well, yeah, okay, so maybe it sucks that Hillary Clinton is the nominee or Bo's the nominee, but could we just get some progressive policies? What if we put on their platform some of our progressive policies? Would that work? And you saw that with Joe Biden too. He was not
Yeah.
popular. He was a centrist milquetoast Democrat if you ever saw one in 2020. He was not going to meet the moment, but he promised incremental change. He promised to be a bridge. He didn't promise incrementalism. He promised to be a bridge. He said, I will just to get us through this election so that Trump doesn't win, I will win. I will implement things like, canceling student loan debt, which he abandoned at the first legal hurdle, $15 minimum wage, which he abandoned again at the first legal hurdle. And I will do all of these progressive things. and we will have the next candidate, the next Democrat will be more progressive than me because I am not the end. I'm the bridge candidate. I'm the incremental change. We didn't get that because he abandoned every progressive policy that was popular that actually got him elected. And so when you do that, you set the stage for an economy that is falling apart, and you have an administration going, shut up, don't believe your lying eyes. I know that your checkbooks are hurting, I know that the economy is not doing well for you, but GDP is good. We see that there are so many economic factors that the Biden administration kept saying that everything in the economy is saying green light. We're good here. And while if you look at those factors that might have been true, when you come down to Main Street and you look at how Main Street is doing, we were fucking hurting. We were financially being crushed, still are. And so when the Kamala Harris campaign comes out and says, there will be no daylight between me and Joe Biden. I don't really see anything that he did wrong. The economy's good. The genocide in Gaza is good. Let's keep her going. People kind of look at that and go, oh, well, I don't think that. I don't feel like I am economically sound or stable. I'm not feeling that in my pocketbook. And, James Carville comes back to it's the economy, stupid. You can't tell people that their economic feelings are stupid and wrong. You cannot
And right
say,
now, the IDP is running to the right of James Carville.
yes, yes, right. I know. And it's insane. And they're offering vague platitudes. And it's so, I mean, we're not even at the $15 minimum wage anymore that they're offering. They say wages, wallets, and workers, I think is their slogan. And I looked at their platform to see, okay, so what is a wage? I want to personally know because I think $15 is too low now. It's not
Oh, it
even,
is.
I mean, so
it's
low.
right. It's
Yeah.
not what it takes to live in the
Mm-mm.
lowest county here in Indiana. So
Right.
like what would your living wage be, IDP? What can you offer me? And when I look at their platform, it doesn't say anything about it. It says affordable wages or something. It's very vague.
Yeah, $15 is what won the state 10 years ago.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
Democrats fought for
Yeah.
that in 2021. It was supposed to have come up to $15 by 2027,
Yeah.
but we lost that fight. And instead of going to the mat for it, instead of saying, hey, we said we were going to get a $20 minimum wage, or sorry, $15 minimum wage. And we're going to get there by 2027. This is what we've put forth, and the Democrat or the Republicans rather in Indiana are fighting us. If we run Democrats, if we win these seats, if we win power, this is what we're going to do. And if you were to doggedly stay on that message, we could have maybe seen some kind of change in Indiana. But I think because the Democrats just, again, they were like, no, it's fuck it. The Republicans, they pushed back on us. They said no to the minimum wage. So they put out a press release saying, well, darn it, it was the Republicans. And it frustrates me because I don't know if it's just incompetence or the donor. Like the cynic in me is like, no, it's the donors. It's always the money, Lebowski. That they get to virtue signal. They get to, and back to your meme about, well, why do all of these get the same moniker and what they're fighting for the same reason that Democrats at the state house get to say that they're fighting for a $15 minimum wage and then abandon it at the first chance that they get and not go to the mat for it. It's because they are bought and paid for by the same donors that the Republicans who destroyed it are. They take money from the Food and Beverage Association, which is the the most money, lobbying money at the state house, is the Food and Beverage Association, because that's who wants to keep servers and people in the retail industry and the service industry struggling at $2.25 an hour if you're a waitress, or $7.25 an hour if you're a hostess. So like,
Yeah.
it's virtue signaling. It's not real. They're doing kabuki theater. This is not real politics. This is not real democracy. It's kabuki theater. And to tie it all back to the techno fascists, they just want to go mask off with it. They just want to say, well, democracy was always fake. Look at it. It's always been fake. So let's
Because
just
they're
fuck it. You'll never have to
reckless.
vote again.
They're reckless, and they don't even have the self-regulation to be able to think toward a bigger goal. They just want
And
it
this
all, and they want it now.
exactly. And
And
this
they're
and
bored.
this comes back to
They're bored and lonely.
this comes back to the capitalism failing. fascism taking over, because when capitalism starts to be questioned or starts to crumble, inevitably fascism starts to take over. And so
Mhm.
again, we see this is the moment where we are deciding whether or not we're going to do a systemic analysis and say, yes, so what we need is economic policies that will make whole again the middle class and the working class. What we need is New Deal era policies that actually raise everybody, right? Because there was a lot of racist problems with and sexist problems with the New Deal policies. So we would need to make it New Deal 2.0 to include everyone, to include the whole working class. Because when you are made economically sound, these dictators, these thin skinned baby boys saying that the democracy doesn't work for you and your life sucks, here, let me hug you and make it better. You won't want that. You won't think that if you have a democracy that works, and if your bank account is such that you can pay your bills, feed your kids, and maybe go on a vacation every once in a freaking while.
And Gavin Newsom, if he's already fighting a wealth tax, he's not going to be a good candidate in 2028. That is the opposite
Mhm.
of what we need.
Yeah.
And yet,
That
Aaron,
is
I
more
think that
cohesion.
they're gonna support him.
Yes,
Oh.
Yeah.
that is why we
So
need to figure out. This is why progressives right now in this moment need to organize and I think come up with a list of demands and try to fight this now, because I am not voting for Gavin Newsom and they're going to say I didn't warn them, and they're going to say, "Oh, you want JD Vance to win." No, I don't. I wanted you to listen to me a long time ago because I'm
right.
tired of being the
Well,
one
it's the
to warn
same.
you while you tell me I'm
Yeah.
Chicken Little. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the same regurgitated story that we've gone through plenty of elections. So anyway, so I think there's obviously a lot more to cover. And we've
Mhm.
got a lot more to talk about. And Aaron, I love the fact that you've joined us now, and I appreciate it. And I think you're in agreement with me that as we go further in the future with our conversations with Sierra, that I really hope Sierra grasps hold of being able to express herself, because I know that this is a struggle with her, and I just hope that we can bring her out of her shell, because I know she has a wealth of knowledge that she wants to share. So
I need you to
hopefully in
know,
the
as many
future.
rants as I go on
So
to you, I go on so many more to my family.
Oh, yeah,
I
and
just
if she were
yeah.
doing that, I would be doing that right now.
Right, right, but I just love the fact that we have a relationship now that I can be a smartass to her and get a laugh out of her, so this is a new experience for us 3, and obviously, it's a new experience for all of you who are watching us, so hopefully, you'll come back and listen to all of us. So, we all 3 are on Substack. We are trying to encourage Erin to become more involved in Substack, because she has some excellent pieces that she's worked on, and that her writings on the other platforms are what drew us to her. So, but Sarah and I are already on Substack. You can follow us there, and please follow Erin and help build her platform here too, because this is where we all need to land at some point in time. So, and if you can keep it under 30 seconds or so, do you have anything else that you want to
I'm Sierra.
I say, keep on rocking in the free world.
Yeah, keep on rocking in the free world. There you go. I love it. But yeah, so thanks for joining us, and hopefully, you'll enjoy what we had to talk about, and you'll look for us in the future. So I'm Kurt. I'm Hoosier Blue 63.
I'm
This
Sierra. I'm
is
Hoosier Lemon.
I'm Erin Moonwalker. I think I'm WL Hillbilly.
WL Hillbilly.
I
Maybe
think
that's
I'm
why I had a hard time finding
Hillbilly.
you.
Yeah.
WL Hillbilly.
I made it up at the spur of
Oh,
the moment. We get
oh
that.
my
I get that
god.
spiritually.
There we go. So we'll get that straightened out for you too. So anyway, thanks a lot for joining us, and y'all have a nice evening, and step
Happy
on back now. You
Tuesday.
hear?
Happy Tuesday with some light shit we covered too.
Yeah, crazy.
Kurt's gonna go stare at the wall now. Maybe listen to some Bob Dylan for 2 hours.
Bob Dylan for sure.